Hi, welcome to the channel. It's very much under construction over here. This is my first video, so not too much on me. We're doing a book recommendation for the first video because I've been on this reading journey since like December. The first book I finished was The Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. That is, I believe that's a multiple part series. No, and I know the next part is The Parable of the Talents. But I finished that. It was really good. I don't want to get too much into it because I think pretty much people already know about it. And also, like, I think I'm going to go into her books individually rather than, there's just a book recommendation video. The second book I finished was The Autobiography of Malcolm X. That's definitely its own video essay. That book radicalized me and really, like, set me on this journey of, like, where I am right now as far as reading. Such a great piece of literature, man. Like, I encourage everybody to read that, especially if you look like me. Then the following book was The Soul of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. About him and Booker T, kinda. That was also another really good one. It gives you perspectives on, how they both felt about how to deal with the Negro problem, which I believe is another book that's on my list. And then the last book I just finished like a couple days ago, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. That's the full title, I believe. That was a beautiful book, I'm not gonna lie. Oh man, especially it's cool all the way through. Chapter 10 really like hit for me, and that's like the second to last chapter. It really hit. Like, such a good book, such a, like, I'm not gonna say good ending, but just the way the book was set up, it was really good. So yeah, those are the books I finished so far. So now this is my TBR and recommendations list. First, I bought some books from Thrift Books, and they gave me this little card, which came with $20 off Chewy, like, discount or whatever. Up to 10 free meals, first box shipped free with HelloFresh. That's pretty cool. And then 40% off a Dash Pass with DoorDash. So, like, for just to order books, I think that's all pretty cool, like, that it came with everything like that. The first book we're going to get into is You Turn My Pain Into Love by John Tarpley. Now, off of this cover, like, I wouldn't have picked this book up. Like, I don't think that's something, like, I'd be interested in. Like, it gives the vibes of the Blue Fruit series if you ever read those books. But yeah, so the story about how it came into my possession. Late meeting with some friends, and I ordered a sandwich from Wawa to go pick up. I go pick up the sandwich, and as I'm walking in, a guy sitting outside at one of the benches with a basket full of books, like a wagon full of books. It's 3 different books. It's this one and then 2 more. Like, I'm kind of in a rush, but I did want to hear what he had to say because, I'm interested in reading. And this one, I believe, is like his memoir or whatever. I don't know. It's really the cover that does it for me. But I am going to read it because I am very interested in him being, like, a black man from Florida with a story to tell. Like, it doesn't get more support your local author, your local artist, like, than this. So I'm definitely gonna read this and get back to you guys. I hope I can, like, find him again, reach out to him, let him know what I thought. He said he was accepting donations, but the books are free. So, like, if you're in Miami Gardens, Carroll City area, and I don't know where, like, if he's stationed over there or whatever, but if you run into him, give him a donation. Tell him somebody recommended you his book, like, make him feel good about it. But yeah, he signed it for me for giving him a donation or whatever. These are my bookmarks. This is a fake $100 bill because I heard something about, like, people used to use money as bookmarks or whatever. And I think, like, if I were ever to give books away and people found this as a bookmark, it'll just be funny. And then it's like one of them, like, manifestation dollars. I don't know. I got it from a metaphysical store. But yeah, that's the first book. I tried my best to be professional, y'all. Camera died. Camera 1 and camera 2 died. Like, I tried my best. I don't know, this production one-man army shit is really, something I gotta get more into. So yeah, we just recording on the phone for now. I ain't got time for all that extra. So yeah, we just gonna keep that first part, just keep the ball rolling, get this done with. So the second book by Richard Wright is The Man Who Lived Underground. This book is sealed, like, it's sealed. I got this from my mama's record and bookstore. in Dania Beach. That place is a vibe. I looked up black owned like bookstores because I wanted to support, you know, black owned businesses and local indie bookstores or whatever. I didn't see black people in there, but it was still a cool shop nonetheless. I don't know how like that came up. Was it because of the name or whatever? But that's what came up. I guess this is an excerpt from the book. Like I said, it's sealed, and like I wouldn't want to know what the book's about anyways. I don't want to be spoiled about nothing, but I'll read an excerpt if you're interested. It says, a spasm of outrage surged in him and he snatched backward, hurling himself away from them. Their fingers tightened about his wrist, biting into his flesh. They pushed him toward the car. Want to get tough, huh? No sir, he said quickly. Then get in the car, goddammit. He stepped into the car and they shoved him into the seat. Two of the policemen sat at either side of him and hooked their arms into his. Lawson got behind the steering wheel, but strangely, the car did not start. He waited, alert but ready to obey. Well, boy, Lawson began in a slow, almost friendly tone. Looks like you in for it, huh? So, sounds interesting. Sounds like a scene of police brutality, something along those lines. But yeah, that's that book. Next, I heard a lot about this. Don't Cry for Me by Daniel Black. To my knowledge, this is a 2-part series. The other part being Isaac's song. I have to order that. But I was like, I might as well get this one first, like, so when I do read it. A little excerpt from here. A black father makes amends with his gay son through letters written on his deathbed in this wise and penetrating novel of empathy and forgiveness. That was the first line from there. So I'm gonna read about that. I feel like that gives you enough of an idea of, you know, what the story's gonna be about. I heard so much about this book, and I went to Barnes and Noble originally. I'm probably never gonna go back there again, just because I bought one book from there, and we're gonna get to that. And just that whole experience, like, it's whatever. Like I said, I'm gonna get into it, but it's just the vibes, like the vibes of buying the book from there versus buying the book from that local bookstore, like that, I guess, cozy feeling, you know. But yeah, James by Percival Everett. I heard a lot about this author, and I have a few other books on my TBR about him. So the first line from this: a brilliant re-imaging of adventures of Huckleberry Finn, both harrowing and ferociously funny, told from the enslaved Jim's point of view. This book is $28. I got it for $14, and it was at Barnes and Noble. It was a thing section just for this book. Like, it was all copies of the book with a whole like poster or whatever promoting it. And I'm pretty sure that's how much it went for. But yeah, I bought this $14 used from my mom's record store. So yeah, that was really nice. Like, and I almost ended up getting it at Barnes and Noble. So I'm happy that I didn't. So now the book that I did get from Barnes and Noble, Rooted. So now the story with this, I went to Barnes and Noble because my library was closed for President's Day. Why y'all celebrating that, man? But I'm not gonna get too much into that. It's just the whole aesthetic of reading in a place full of books. Like, I don't know, I guess I'm dramatic, but I read all my books at the library. I could read at home, but it just don't hit the same. Like I said, the aesthetic. So the full title says Rooted: The American Legacy of Land Theft and the Modern Movement for Black Land Ownership by Brea Baker. So I'm looking for the books. Like, I'm looking for, like, I guess the Black History section or whatever. As it was the middle of February when I got it, and I kept the receipt too. I heard something about that too, like, you know, people like to find receipts and money in the book, so I'm going to try to keep all my receipts if I do continue buying books from stores. On the book, I find the Black History section, and it came down to, because I got like 200 books on my, I guess, TBR. Like, that's what it is. Like, I got into books in December, and I just been like adding lists like since December, or adding books to the list since December. So now I'm at about 200 books that I fully intend to read. For the most part, I did remember them like off the cover, so I know this was one of them. I got it. I get in line. There's the cashier is white, and the two people, they're also white, or, you know, white presenting whatever situations, and they're just, you know, chopping it up, having a wonderful time at the register. Oh, you're gonna love this book, or you're gonna love that, and this, like, they just giggling, you know, having a whole, you know, just girling it out. having a great time, great chemistry. Then, you know, they check out. I'm next in line. You know, same energy for the most part. Like, oh, hi, how are you? Welcome to the store. Like, all that shit. And then she's like, oh, do I have like a rewards program? I'm like, no, like, I just got here. My first time here in like years. I don't know if y'all remember the Nook, that like reading tablet. I got that like probably a decade ago when that came out or whatever. I was so excited about that. I was not an iPad kid. I was a Nook kid. I was like the last time I've been to Barnes & Noble. So it was like a new experience for me. So anyways, I'm like, no, I don't have, you know, the rewards, whatever. So okay, we're going to set you up. So we're doing the whole process. And now I got a book and a pen. If y'all have any recommendations for a good quality, smooth, black pen, let me know, because I'm on the hunt for one. Like, I take notes on the books that I read. So I would definitely love like a nice smooth pen, because these pens I've been having so far, they just not the one, you know. So anyways, she grabs the pen first, scans that, and then she grabs the book. Now when I hand her the book, like her hand is like shaking a little bit. She's like trying to type something in the register, and you just see her fingers trembling. So I'm like, what's that about? And then I look at her face, and she's flustered red. Like, because I hadn't really, you know, really thought about the title of the book or whatever. Because, like, you know, you see the three, you can assume, like, these are slaves or whatever. They're in a field, like, whatever that perception gives you. I'm like, is the white guilt so, like, deep, so serious that, like, just seeing a book like this is making you tremble? Like, I just thought that was an interesting, you know, experience. Okay, the next book, Blood in the Water, The Attica Prison Uprising of 1971 and Its Legacy by Heather Ann Thompson. All of the books I have, by the way, are hardcover, with the exception of this one, because like it was just a gift or whatever, and he only had paperbacks. This is like, it's not hardcover, it's like vinyl. I don't know, it's kind of hard, but I'm gonna try to mostly get hardcovers because I just enjoy hardcovers. And I feel like for a collection, like I said, I'm into the theatrics of it. So like to have a bookshelf, I would want to fill it with hardcovers. On September 9th, 1971, nearly 1,300 prisoners took over the Attica Correctional Facility in upstate New York to protest years of mistreatment. They took 38 hostages and over the next several days negotiated with officials for improved conditions in the prison. There's more, but I don't want to read more, like I already explained. That give me the vibes of Orange is the New Black, if y'all ever watched that show. I say that because some people haven't, and that is so crazy to me. That theme song alone. The next book, The Reformatory. I heard a lot about this one too. So when I seen it at the store, hardcover, it was a no-brainer. In Gracetown, Florida, oh man, I take a lot of pride in, like, don't want to say in Florida, definitely in Miami. Miami and Florida is two different places, by the way. And I don't mean Miami Beach, like that's another separate thing that's a part of Florida as well. But Miami in Florida, Broward in Florida, Jacksonville in Florida, like all very different places from Florida. I like whenever I see anything that has to do with Florida, I just get excited, like just knowing the history and knowing that like I'm here. It's just like, I don't know, something about pride or ego. Gracetown, Florida, June of 1950. 12-year-old Robbie Stevens Jr. is sentenced to 6 months at the Gracetown School for Boys for kicking the son of the largest landowner in town in defense of his older sister, Gloria. So begins Robbie's journey further into the terrors of the Jim Crow South and the very real horror of the school they call the Reformatory. Sounds great. Also, I am going to have more non-fiction, more history than like actual fiction and everything, but 9 times out of 10 it is definitely going to be by a black author. It's February, but that's not like the only reason I'm into these books and whatever. It's just I'm establishing the history. But 2 more books and then we'll get more into that. Imani Perry, South to America, Black and Blues, How a Color Tells the Story of My People. Now this cover alone would have made me get the book. I love art. I have a appreciation for art, for black art specifically. Like love oil paintings and everything like that. Shameless plug, check out my boy Uno Ego for art commissions. Throughout history, Black life has been remarkably intertwined with another color, blue. In daily life, it is evoked in countless ways, from the hopefulness of the blue sky to the deep melancholy of Louis Armstrong's question, "What did I do to be so black and blue?" In this book, celebrated author Imani Perry uses the world's favorite color as a springboard for a riveting emotional, cultural, and spiritual journey, an examination of race and blackness that transcends politics or ideology. Ideology. That's such a weird word. Something about the English language is so interesting to me. It's such an interesting language. It's such a dumb language. It's such a unique language. Like, and I don't mean dumb in a negative way, but like, I guess it's not really another to take it. Do I mean ignorant? It said that Shakespeare is like responsible for like so much of the English language as it is today, but it's also said that Shakespeare is King James, as you know, people of royal standing were not allowed to do anything theatrical, I guess. I don't even know what you call that category, but they weren't allowed to like do that because of their royal standing. So they say that he's Shakespeare, some correlation to the, you know, the King James version of the Bible. And I think it's interesting because like you hear things like the New Testament, King James version of the Bible, you know, you hear these things and it's just like, that's what it is. But like, if you think about it, like everything means something. And for those people like, oh, you know, it's not that deep. It's deeper. I don't know who said that, but like that has always stuck with me. Like, it's always going to be deeper. It's always something. And 9 times out of 10, that something stems from systematic racism. But we're not going to get into that. Finally, the last book, Black Psychedelic Revolution, From Trauma to Liberation by Nicholas Powers, PhD. Put some respect. Now, I don't know. This is probably going to be like a whole nother video, maybe, if I want to talk about it. But my love for psychedelics, oh man, like we go way back for real. So Black Psychedelic Revolution, like this was just right up my alley. And I fuck with the cover too. The mainstream has long viewed psychedelic medicine as the purview of people with privilege, money to burn, time to trip, and the social safety to experiment. It's not ridiculous to say that. Those psychedelics have deep roots in Black and indigenous cultures. Western psychedelic spaces have historically excluded people of color. But the radical healing of psilocybin, MDMA, and ketamine aren't just for a purified elite. And they're definitely not just for white people. Agreed. I will say this though about psychedelics. I don't see them as a drug as much as I see them as spiritual tool. You definitely have to, this is not a thought, like it's a fact, you have to be in a good like mindset when you do it. You have to be in a good environment while you're doing, before you're doing it. I'm not gonna say your life has to be perfect, you know, you got to be in that right mental space, like things got to be going good in your life. Because I remember times where I tripped, I'll be in my room and like I was like, oh, it's so messy in here. And it's like you want to clean, but then it's like that's gonna be a whole thing. Like, is this how I want to spend my trip? And then I started like, you know, going to the beach or whatever and tripping outside. And it was like, okay, now I'm somewhere else. Like I'm in public. I have to get home eventually, so I gotta wait till I sober up to drive. And then while I'm there, I can't. Not that I can't be around people, but it's just better not to be around people because, like, you know, you don't want your trip to go a bad way. So the story of my book journey, like I said, it started in December with The Parable of the Sower. That's a book that has just been recommended so many times to me, like by a couple of friends, so personal recommendations, and then seeing it on TikTok, on Instagram, and just hearing about, you know, Octavia Butler. Yeah, that was just a really good book. I've been was supposed to start reading. I think I first started it like last summer, and I read the first chapter. I don't know why I didn't continue. Like, it's not that it was bad by any means. I don't know. I don't think I was in the right headspace for reading. And I think TikTok attributed to that whole like focusing on short form content and everything. So eventually I did pick it back up in December as a buddy read. But I ended up running through that shit. And I was like, yeah, let me keep this flow going, getting into more books. So the next book, also recommended a lot, the Autobiography of Malcolm X. And it's like, when you hear about like civil rights activists and abolitionists and everything like that. All these ISTs and ISMs. And you hear everything is like, the American school system has failed us. At least for me, for the most part, people around me, like, it's just so much to everything that you're just not told, or that, you know, is whitewashed from, knowing the truth. A big example is flag. Like, a lot of people don't know about the Black American Heritage flag. And it's like, I found out 2 years ago, the same year I found out about the Tutnese language. And it's like, every time it's brought up, like if you see a TikTok or Instagram post, a good majority of the comments, oh, I didn't know we had this, I didn't know we had that. It's more frustrating than anything. Not in the sense of like, how could you not know that? How could we not know it as a people? And it's like I said, I learned about it 2 years ago, and I'm still hearing these comments today. So it's like, what am I doing for people to know? I bought a necklace. I'll link the description down from the website that I bought it from. So anytime, oh, what's that flag about around your neck? Happy to tell you. I definitely educated a few people. So it's like, that's what it's about. Now I'm doing my part and, sharing my knowledge. I think like that's the basis for this channel. Right? Finishing Malcolm's book, or just like reading it in general, like it was a lot of parts that I related to, as far as that journey of being a hooligan to, being more radical, more an advocate for, the revolution. Not to call myself a revolutionary, because somebody said that, those words hold a lot of weight when you say things like that.
So that we don't end up doing more harm than good to revolutionary action. I don't even say, I would never call myself a revolutionary. Yeah. I am a theater kid who grew up and developed a politic. And I don't even say I'm an activist. Mm-hmm. I'm an advocate for different communities that I either intersect with or I care about. Because I believe in the responsibility and the weight of those words at this juncture. Right. Talk to me in maybe 10 years and that'll be something different.
So, an advocate is definitely what I am. And this is how, I'm doing my part to advocate for the movement with everything going on. In Malcolm's book, he references other books, which is how I found out about solo Black folks. So getting into that, it was like, okay, this is interesting, because I've heard the name many times, W.E.B Du Bois, but I never knew who he was. And then with Booker T, there's a school that my cousin went to that I knew about, called Booker T Washington. It's just like, it's a lot of schools named after well, not named after Black people, but you hear these names, it's like you don't really look more into it other than it's just the name of a school. So unless you need to go there, you're not really looking into it. So I was like, now I'm doing my due diligence, picking up the slack where the American school system failed me, and that's why I'm reading. That's how I got into this journey. So like I said, I have 200 something books in my TBR, mostly nonfiction, mostly history, a few political sciences, because given this presidency, this administration, these current events, it's just so much going on right now, and everything goes back to education. And then again, with every book that I'm reading, and the parable of the sower, the main character talks about how some people can't read, and she had to teach some people to read and write. So it's that's something loosely about education, that being a fictional book. And then Malcolm's book, he talks about he couldn't read and write, so when he was in jail, he started with the dictionary, and that was something I had related to as a form of punishment for me growing up. Just being bad, a mild form of punishment was to copy the dictionary verbatim. So I very much related to that, and it's but he was doing it to learn. It's I wasn't doing it to learn, I was doing it as a punishment, but as a side effect, I was learning. And I did, I was definitely a better reader than some of my peers at that age. I believe this was 5th grade, and they were telling my parents I was reading at a 8th grade reading level, which I'm assuming was a good thing or whatever. But I did always enjoy reading and writing, but school fucked that up for me. The whole, when it came to essays, now I love essays. Matter of fact, I wrote an essay myself. So if you were wondering why planes have been crashing in the United States, check that out. That whole prompted essay thing about you know, they tell you, like, to tell somebody that they want them to write something, but then, okay, here's the prompt you have to follow. Like, okay, that's not crazy. But then here's how you have to write it, whether that's expository, argumentative, like all of that stuff. And then here's the structure of the essay. There has to be an introduction, a body, a conclusion, and then each paragraph has to be this many sentences. The essay has to be this many paragraphs as a whole. And it's like, you're putting so much restriction on the creative process. Like, who is this for? Yeah, it really turned me off from, like, I guess, the language arts section of schooling. Following the Soul of Black Folks was Frederick Douglass's narrative. And now I'm at a point where it's like, okay, I'm kind of going back and forth between like timelines and everything, and I prefer to read in chronological order. But that is a situation in itself of how do I go about, you know, finding this information, finding out what the chronological order is. So I looked up, like, you know, books from each like time period. So I think the next book I'm going to read is Before the Mayflower. I think that starts with, you know, colonial Africa, if I'm not mistaken, and then gets into like the transatlantic slave trade and establishes that timeline. And then I heard a book on Incidents of a Slave Girl, written by herself. I can't remember the name right now, but and then after that one, I think would be the Frederick Douglass's narrative. So I was like, okay, now we're gonna go from that point and then try to do things chronologically. But then authors now are making books, and it's like, I don't want to miss out on what's happening now because I'm going back in the past, even though, you know, stuff is still relevant from the past, and, you know, I still have to learn the knowledge. And it gets to a point where, like, I think somebody said, like, if you're a avid reader or a good reader, you will make a good writer. Like, I have wanted to publish a book, like, just in general, like, as a kid, I always wanted to just publish a book, not necessarily be an author, but have a published literary work. And now I've started writing essays. Like I said, I'm going to get more into things. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm at, because I kind of wanted to do like Black history at first, but now it's like with everything going on, I'm kind of leaning towards like the political scene, and it's like that's not my intention, and that's not what I want to do, because I've always been one of them, like, you know, I don't want to get into politics, or I'm not invested in politics like that, not necessarily caring about what's really going on as long as it's not directly affecting me. But you cannot read these books and like keep that sentiment, keep that mindset, that line of ideals, because I mean, you have not been reading for comprehension, or you just haven't been paying attention to what you're reading. Because how can you read, especially with Malcolm's book, like how can you read a story like that, hear what he was fighting for, hear how he got killed, and it's like, I feel like it was for nothing. Like, of course, like everything he did wasn't for nothing, but it's like, if I was in that position, I'm doing everything I can for my community, and I die by the hand of my community, but directly, but like, you know the three-letter agencies at hand and everything. But that's another video. Yeah, I just can't, you know, stand aside and just not be active anymore. I did vote in the election. I'm just learning, like, it's so much that goes into this. Like, this is really another video, like, talking about Project 2025, talking about like what's been going on, what's to come. Like, everything is laid out in Project 2025. It is a physical book, and matter of fact, I am going to recommend it. It's a 900-page book about what Trump's plans to do. And this is not a new book. This is not a new idea. These are not new concepts. Ronald Reagan has done this already. He achieved 60% of what he wanted to do for this administration because it was laid out in a book, because it was easy to follow step by step on what he wanted to do. There is somebody that explains this better than me. So I urge you guys to check out her video. That's another thing I came to realize, like, but it's not going to hinder me from anything. But there are people who explain things better to me, especially if they've been doing it longer than me. And Malcolm X said this, and Frederick Douglass has said this, like, that even like where they are in life, or where they were as far as being, you know, activists, they felt like there are people who said things better than them. And like, that's how I feel about things. But I am learning how to articulate myself better. I am reading more, educating myself more. But for the time being, you know, we're a community, you know, we're helping each other out, whether that's organizing or helping other people come to whatever line of thoughts or whatever ideals. Because, like, you just never know where something is going to lead you. Like, reading Malcolm's book, that got me, like, after the type of videos I would watch on YouTube were more like vlogs, whether that was like fashion influencers or somebody going around like, what is New York City wearing, or somebody just moved somewhere else and this is where they are now, to like, I got into book recommendations, specifically black authors or black story recommendations. Like, so now as I'm watching those type of videos, eventually it's like, I feel like everything just came back to education. It would be speeches by Malcolm or speeches by, you know, authors like Toni Morrison, Octavia Butler. There was a poet that had just died recently. I can't think of her name, but I'll link the poem that I had like seen by her. It was like, yeah, those are the type of stuff that came on my timeline. So eventually, you know, stuff about Trump would come up, or like really like Jasmine Crockett talking about it at first. Shit just kind of snowballed into more of a political scene. And it's like, it's not that I was like trying to stay away from it, but it was like I wasn't really trying to watch those types of videos. But then I would watch other stuff about, you know, the rise of anti-intellectualism with TikTok discourse, but not in the sense of like, you know, the drama that's going on. Just like, what is TikTok from a political standpoint, and then stuff about Elon and what he's contributing to the Trump administration. I couldn't help but like start to lean towards like that political route. I'm not, you know, I'm not fear mongering. I'm not being an alarmist. I'm not, you know, trying to push anybody to do anything, except, especially if you're black, I want you to be more active in your community. Like, I want us to be progressive. As far as it stands, where I am as a individual, I don't support anything because I don't like fully know what they mean yet. Like, I'm still educating myself on like what all of this means. But the way black nationalism was spoke about, as far as with Malcolm X, like throughout his book or throughout his speeches, I think from what I understand, I like the idea of that. I'm not claiming anything, like I said, but I do like that idea of black excellence and the progressiveness of the black community. And when you hear stories about Tulsa, about Rosewood, like, you know, these black Wall Streets, these successful black communities that get torn down by hating ass white people, it's just like, you can't help but want to build that back up. I remember initially finishing Malcolm's book, and it's just like, damn, like, so he died, what's going on now? Like, did his children pick up the torch, or did another activist like rise up from the ashes type shit to keep it going? Like I said, I'm trying to establish the timeline and read things chronologically, because right now I'm starting with a blank slate. So that's where we at with this, with everything right now. This was my first video. Hopefully this gets put together in a digestible way, because I do like the video essay thing. Like, I like the longer form content, because I think we really need that. Not too much going into the anti-intellectualism thing. That might be a separate thing that I do, but we definitely are in need of that longer form of content. Like with TikTok initially being banned, I was kind of divided, because it's like, on one hand, I do like it. I'm not necessarily addicted to it, because I definitely didn't have like any crazy screen times like I've seen from some people. But I did, you know, find myself being on there when I could have been more productive. But by the time I started reading, it was like I pretty much had it balanced out. But then I would, you know, because as a lot of people do, get their information from TikTok, get their news from TikTok. So I did feel some type of way. Like I said, it was 50-50. But like, if the app did get deleted, it's like, okay, you know, I could see some good things, some better productive ways people spend their time now, because I know like people don't want to go to any other apps, and like a lot of people acknowledge that they did have a problem with TikTok as far as addiction goes. So I was definitely split on that, but for it to come back like 14 hours later, it was like, damn, this was so bittersweet. And it's like, it's obviously not the exact same app. And then the whole cute winter boots thing, it was just so much that kind of turned me off from it. But my algorithm did like stop being more comedy and like diaspora wars shit, and it did get more to like book recommendations and like what's going on like politically and Black history things. So it's like, yeah, okay, I got a nice algorithm right now, but I still don't want to be on there that much. But it's like every time I go on there, I learn something, like and especially about what this administration is doing, like, and it just makes me want to write about everything, because like the news is not getting out there. And then again, people are not reading. Like, that's another thing. Like, if they're not even reading the older works, why would they read my works, like my current events or whatever the case is? But like I said, I'm not going to let anything discourage me. I am going to put everything that I want to do out, whether that's these video essays or physical essays. Right now, I'm posting them on Medium, just because. Oh, another person that radicalized me is Ismatu Gwendolyn. She's like my number one person that like got me on this path, and she made a video basically talking about Substack and how they have a nigger problem. That's an essay I'll probably link for you guys to check out, but if it's still up. But yeah, so I'm definitely not using that. And it was like anything else as far as me submitting essays to like local publications or just publications in general, is like I don't know what that process is like. So far I submitted one essay to the Atlantic. They talking about 2 weeks before they get back to me, but are people gonna care in 2 weeks? And it's just like, but that's a whole nother thing. It's just where we at in this journey. If you want to be along for the ride, like, comment, subscribe, get the algorithm flowing. And then it's like, let me know, you know, what you guys expect to see, or share your experiences. Like, I'm gonna try to do like community posts and shit, so like I can talk to everybody and like we can get on a one-track mind, because this whole thing is for me to establish myself among like-minded individuals, because inevitably it gets to a point, like there is a point to this, like there is a point to learning. Like, I'm not just gonna absorb all of this information and then just continue doing my 9 to 5, living a regular life. Like, I am gonna get more involved, I am gonna get more active. I'm not saying I'm gonna run for senator or like House of Representative or anything like that, but who knows what the fuck is gonna happen. And I'd rather have a community behind me or whatever direction I take in life. So yeah, that's the video. See you guys in the next one.
Bitch, you think it's small when you need to be thinking big. You need to be thinking big, bitch. You need to be thinking big, bitch. Think big, bitch.